If you've watched many of my other videos, you know that I'm a big fan of hand planes. So over the last 40 years or so, I've collected a number of hand planes, and from antique hand planes that I've brought back to life to newer hand planes, and I use them all the time in my shop. The other day I was browsing through one of the big box stores, and I ran across this Jorgensen 60.5 block plane. A little quick history of Jorgensen. They were traditionally, for over 100 years, a large company based out of Chicago, and they made woodworking clamps of all varieties. For the past several years, business dropped. They went out of business. Somebody bought the name and the rights and started producing clamps overseas, and now they've also gotten into the hand plane market. So these are reasonably priced hand planes, but I wanted to see how good they were compared to some of the other ones. So I'm going to take this one and we're going to take it apart, we're going to sharpen it, put it back together and see how well it performs. Now, as a comparison, this is a model Stanley 60.5, modeled after the Stanley. It's a low angle block plane, and it has a depth adjustment knob in the back and a hefty lever cap. This is a modern version, low angle block plane made by Veritas from Lee Valley, and it's also low angle and has a depth adjustment knob in the back. So compared to these two, we're going to see how well this Jorgensen performs. So I've used this 60.5 Jorgensen block plane for a few days, and overall, I think it's a good value for the money. The fit and finish are nice. The machining is very nice. I sharpened the blade. It was very easy to sharpen. Now it did have just a little bit of a divot in the bevel, but that came out with a little sharpening. The back was relatively flat. It took a little bit of work to get it totally flat along the cutting edge. But overall, I think the quality is pretty decent. Now, I don't have any opinions yet on the long-term use after I've used this for a few weeks, but overall, I think it's a good steel and should hold up well. The bed of the plane has been machined very nicely, nice and flat, so the blade rests nice and flat on there. One thing I did notice is, as with most planes, there's a little bit of a backlash on the adjustment knob for the depth adjustment of the blade. And a general rule of thumb is, on any plane that has a depth adjustment knob, when you adjust the depth where you want to make sure to always turn it back to the right until it just grabs. That way you eliminate any chance of the blade moving as you plane. One thing I was a little bit concerned about, and still am actually, is that this adjustable mouth doesn't really get as tight to the blade as I would like. When I'm taking a really thin shaving, I want to make sure that I get as close to that blade as I can and still let the shaving pass through. One thing I want to point out is that there is no lateral adjustment on this plane to ensure that the cutting edge is parallel to the sole of the plane. So in order to take care of that, the slot in the blade is long enough that you can just simply move the blade back and forth to adjust the lateral position. During use, if you need to make adjustments, you're going to loosen the cap just enough. It's still snug to the blade, but just loose enough that you can move this blade back and forth with your fingers to make that lateral adjustment. So there you have it. I think this is a good value for the money, and I think it's definitely a plane that you should consider adding to your tool arsenal.